Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to MNW Firing Line, your guide to Multiverse Nexus Wrestling. I'm your host, Jerry Aldini, and with me, as always, is Pete McPherson.
Hello.
And a good evening to everyone. How are you doing tonight, Pete?
Oh, I'm hanging in there. How about yourself?
It's been a good week. It's been a good week. Getting a lot done around the office. Getting things ready. We are now in full-on Multivania prep here in MNW, and a lot of behind-the-scenes going on, getting ready for the biggest show of the year. And
a little over a month left.
Yeah, it takes time. It's not like the regular pay-per-view. It's a lot happens when it's Multivania time, and we had such a big Multivania last year that the question and the expectation of the brass is, what are we going to do to top it? So there's meetings.
Starts with friggin' laser beams.
In most promotions that would be in this one. It might have been on one of the suggestion lists. I'm not sure. Because really, when you say that, I mean, aren't you really just saying giving a laser to Zephyr Tail and Carcharodon? I mean, these are things you got to consider when you're talking about Multiverse Nexus Wrestling.
Yep.
Lots of things can happen. You say, oh, that'll never happen. Have you been here? Because there are so many things you thought, no one will ever murder a wrestler in the middle of the ring. Oh. Okay.
Trees hides the blueprints for Zephyr's laser helmet. And I'm just sitting there. It's just a drawing of a roll of duct tape and a flashlight.
It's a flashlight. Or,
no,
think about
laser
this.
Pointer.
Think about this. It could be a laser pointer. They could be getting ready for a match against Naja.
Ooh.
You got to think about these things strategically.
And somebody's retinas out with that.
Boy, I mean, I can hear people complaining, but sure, could happen. I've seen weirder things around here. That's for sure. This week in the wider world of wrestling, I don't think there was a lot of big news. I mean, there was some unfortunate news, but we're not going to cover that here. Somebody misbehaved, and we'll just leave it at that.
Yep.
You can go on the social media later and figure out what I'm talking about. And with that, also really quickly, thank you to Twitch the Person for the raid of 4. Welcome to the show. Really, I don't see any reason to hold back. It's other than, as we've said, it's this crazy time. It
is
Multivania. We are, as I said, there's a lot of looking at what we want to do, soliciting information and suggestions from the roster, from the production gang, from the entire social media and YouTube team are on it and trying to figure out what we are going to do there. Just it's all hands on deck. But in the meantime, the biggest thing when you're looking at a show like Multivania is what's going to be the card. And now that we are just a little over a month out from Multivania, this is when things are going to start shaping up. And we know a little bit. So far, I mean, the one thing we know for sure, there will be a 8-person showcase match as the main event for Nero Napier's World Heavyweight Championship. We so far know that Nero will be in the match, that Nitzig Gunk Gobbler will be in the match. Simon the Psycho won a spot in that match, but we'll cover that more later in the show. And we know that Scott E. Stevens won the opportunity to qualify for that match in one-on-one action. Well, we're going to see things about that throughout the night. There's also the question of who will face Doom for the Trios Championship. Will the Bone Warriors face Forces of Nature? Well, we understand they're going to face Forces of Nature before Multivania. That's my latest understanding. That could change. And so much else. So I guess the best thing to do right now is get into the show. And it starts out with a message on the situation with that main event at Multivania from our representative of the brass, Mr. Lawson.
But it seems we can't have any fun around here without a little bit of controversy. As some of you have heard, the Empire of Terror had a qualifier match last week, and already there are concerns about the results within their little group. I understand that the Grim Reaper is extremely unhappy with the way things went down. Simon has since responded. I'm sure you will hear those messages throughout the show, but I am here to speak on it directly as a representative of the brass. So what we have here is...
Absolutely. Simon the Psycho doesn't want to put his Multivania opportunity on the line. I get it. He's scared. He got lucky and he doesn't want to lose it. And that's fine. I'm glad that Simon gets to make that decision. Yeah.
What are you getting at, Jagger? I don't see what your angle is here. Simon won that match fair and square. It was a showcase like any other. I fail to see why the Grim Reaper should have an opportunity. Sure, he's upset. When has that ever granted someone an opportunity before?
I mean, actually, it happens all the time. Kathjina did it last week. She was pissed off, said, brass willing, I'm getting an Extreme Rules match, and this week it's booked. So, I mean, if the inmates are going to run the asylum, I mean, that's on you, Lawson. If you want Simon, of all people, to basically run your show, then I guess let him.
Simon the Psycho does not run this show. No one runs this show but I. Is that understood? I make the matches on behalf of the brass. No one is doing that on my behalf. Do I make myself clear, Jagger?
So then it probably pisses you off that so many people have basically written their own destiny. I mean, sure, the brass might clear it, but if you can come out here and demand it and the brass just gives it to him, where does that leave you? It doesn't really require you involved in the process, so Simon continues that precedent, I guess.
Yes, I suppose it does. You know what? I will not stand for that particular behavior. You're right, Kathjina did demand a match, and it was given. Simon declined a match, and it's not on the card, so I'll tell you what. Tonight, we will have that match. It will be the Reaper versus Simon for a spot at Multivania. There! No, but before you interrupt me, Jagger, let me remind you that you still have to qualify yourself. And this goes for anyone else that wants to book themselves in a match or decide that they control their own fate. You do not. The brass does, and I am the hand of the brass. Enjoy your evening, Mr. Blackthorn.
So with that, I guess Mr. Lawson is after getting a wake-up call from the Omnislayer, is getting his dander up at all these people coming down and making demands or saying what they will and will not be doing.
Yes, the right hand is becoming a bit red right hand.
Yeah, that's a really good analogy for it, Pete. And this is, I know there have been accusations of manipulation, but I mean, really it seems to me like the situation was just explained as it is. I mean, nothing Jagger said was untrue in the least.
Well, sometimes that's the hardest thing to argue with.
And, you know, he happened to go in and speak truth to power, and power listened. And so, yes, we will later in the show be covering a match between Simon the Psycho and the Grim Reaper. And that match, whoever wins that match will gain the opportunity to be in that main event showcase match at Multivania. And that's yeah, it's interesting. I mean, Jagger makes a point. Jagger's very focused, I think, right now on where everything is settling down for Multivania. I think he's looking forward. But Lawson did point out, Jagger right now has no booked matches at Multivania. In fact, the only people right now booked for Multivania are Nitzig Gunk Gobbler, Nero Napier, Doom, but we don't know who their challengers are, and the Bone Warriors, and it's up in the air who they'll actually, well, if the Bone Warriors retain in their upcoming match to the Forces of Nature. So even that's not certain. So there's a lot of questions out there about who will be at Multivania. It's a 2-day event. It's going to be a mix of Warzone and Flashbang matches. Usually quite a few. I mean, you look at what happened last year. So, any thoughts?
So many questions.
You have
so many questions.
So, I mean, yeah, and I mean, there's also, I mean, you look at the. I'm also looking at who are our top performers right now on Friday Night Flashbang. You know, the main event crew, as it were. And with that, you've got Kevin Blackwell, you have Jagger Blackthorn, you have El Pollo de la Muerte, you have many members of Apex, Blight Howless and Satyrus Basilicus. You have the Colt Classic, Henry Colt. You have the DeLuna 13. None of these players have any determination about what they're going to be doing at Multivania yet, whether they're going to be in that 8-man showcase match or whether they are going to be maybe somewhere else on the card if they don't make that happen. You know, everyone's so focused on that 8-man match that I think a lot of people are losing sight of there will be other matches on the card, and it's Multivania. You need that, you know, they always talk about the Multivania moment. So we'll have to see. Meanwhile, speaking of potential Multivania moments, getting on to our next match. This is an interesting, I suppose, grudge match. Oh, and really quickly, I see on social media. Oh, it's Kath Gina. I only asked for that match because you, Jagger, you murderous something. Don't think I'm going to let you be happy, Jagger, at the biggest show of the year. And then we've got that going on in the background. And that's becoming a, well, we'll talk about that later in the show. In the meantime, the next match we have is a three-way dance between Michael Macabre, the Aristocratic Canid, and the Cyber Controller. Now, with everything we've got going on here, Michael Macabre, of course, 1/3 of the Trios champions. The Aristocratic Canid has been teaming of late with the Princedom and having good showings against Doom, basically making the argument that they should have the shot at Doom's belt. And then the Cyber Controller, who realistically is in here because he bears a grudge against Mad Jack, Michael Macabre's fellow faction mate in Doom. So there's a lot happening here. A lot of, let's say, posturing. A lot of people jockeying for position and jockeying for what they're looking for. I guess 3 different messages if you really want to look at it that way.
Well, if it's going to come down to posturing, though.
Well, I mean,
I put my money on the Dapper one.
It's true. I mean, it's professional wrestling. And, you know, posturing and appearance, huge parts of the business. I mean, and somebody who's been putting on great performances ever since their debut has been the Aristocratic Candid. And really all three of these are all wrestlers who are relatively new, so to speak. I think most of them debuted either at last Multivania or since last Multivania. I think the one exception might be the Cyber Controller. Have to go back and look at the books for when people debuted, but and of course you have Macabre, now a member of one of the oldest factions on Flashbang, a group that actually predates the debut of Friday Night Flashbang. The Cyber Controller, who we heard from his representative last week on the Callout.
Yes, his representative.
Yeah, that was different. And then, of course, you have the Aristocratic Candid, who has, after that fantastic Best of 5 series against Brawl Kaiser, even though he didn't win, has made a great showing since then, including here, up against both of these powerful combatants. The Candid comes out with the victory. So once again, that call for making the claim that the Candid and their allies, the Princedom, should be those #1 contenders for Doom's belts. And I'm sure there's people out there who are maybe not so pleased. The Empire of Terror made a good showing in a potential qualifying match for that. So did the House of Caliban. And yet it's the upper crust who seems to have risen. I guess there's something about cream rising. And they have reached the top and are the ones making they certainly have the best argument for going up against Doom.
Well, we will have to see.
We will. And of course, one of the other things we know and we've heard is that it's Multivania. And that could mean the contender might not be from the Flashbang roster.
Well, that's always a possibility.
Yeah. I know that Wilson, son of Will, has definitely made it known that VIP would love another crack at getting their gold back. It would not surprise me if the main event Mex.exe would like to get it, bring the gold back to them. And then, as always, somewhere out there, Nakama Worldwide. So, a lot of voices, but the ones speaking the loudest right now are Aristocratic Candid, Sir Reginald, and Sir Percival. And now, with that out of the way, sometimes, Pete, there are just moments. Something happens and you're like, there should be words. You and I are both professional speakers. Myself as a longtime veteran of the wrestling industry, you as a journalism student and now in the workforce. But every once in a while, something just happens. And you have to go, what? And with that, ladies and gentlemen of the Firing Line audience, here's Suicide Gemini.
In fact, even Mr. Manatee has said he is sticking by my side, but that's why I'm out here, Chef. We need to have a little bit of a talk. And by talk, I need you to think really, really hard about what you are about to do next. You see, you were so close. I was so close. I could taste it. It was a delicious taste that turned very sour very, very quickly. So, Mr. Manatee, consider this my one and only offer for you to get off this crazy train before it really gets going, because I adore you, Mr. Manatee. You saw things in me I didn't even see in myself. I never knew I could cook. And in doing so, I offer you the same courtesy. The path I walk down is dark, it is lonely, and it is not pretty. And I would not blame you if you did not wish to follow me down it. I would not blame you in the least. But you only get one chance, because if you do follow me down this road, down my quest for conquest, you may very well fall into your own despair. And I want you to know that before you make your decision. I will not hold it against you either way, but where I am going, you may not wish to follow. There are things you may not want to do that I have to do. I need to finish this, Manatee. It is the only thing that will put this restless mind to sleep. So think long and think hard.
Did you know there was issues going on with Hell's Kitchen?
I did not.
Something is clearly happening in the background. We know that Gemini has been making a decent showing of late in singles competition, but Hell's Kitchen has also been still standing up as a formidable tag team, which they've been for quite a while, and they've always seemed to have gotten along well, and it almost, to me, almost sounded like Manatee is perfectly willing to stand by Suicide Gemini in upcoming endeavors, and Gemini is not sure if that's the best idea. That's the best I can tell.
Yeah,
I think. I don't
maybe.
know.
Yeah.
I'm just an old wrestler. I'm not a psychologist. So I will leave it to smarter people than I to try and figure out what's going on there. All right, are we good to go on, Pete? You got anything you think we should add to that? A lot happening. I mean, I guess again. Even Joe Mojo in the next room is typing out, "They don't pay me enough to figure that out." It's fair, Joe. Well, Joe, except you're the guy that usually has to have the interviews. I don't usually suggest people for you, and I won't start now. I'm just, especially because I listened to that recording for what you've got for us tonight. I know what's coming. Normally Joe surprises us with the call out. I usually don't know what's going to be on the call out until Joe plays the tape. I got a note from Joe this week it was basically, Jerry, we need to talk.
Oh, that's never good.
Yeah. And he played it. And you know what? We're going to go with it. We're going to play it when it comes to call out time. That's what's going to happen. We'll worry about everything else after. It's going to be one of those nights, Pete.
Yep, it is.
So, well, speaking of one of those nights, all right, so the next match we were discussing earlier, we had the social media post from Kath Gina. We saw Jagger Blackthorn earlier in the evening and talking to Mr. Lawson and pointing out that Kath Gina had demanded a hardcore match against TK. So for the quick recap for the audience, due to the issues existing between Kath Gina and Jagger Blackthorn over what happened to the members of her family, Kath Gina made a vow to run Rampage through the Flashbang roster until the brass gave her Jagger. The problem with that rampage is the very first person she found herself against was TK of Spectre Sonata, who now 2 matches later has the score is 2-0 in TK's favor. And so Kathjina has shifted her focus for the moment on TK, who is now in her way. And with that, we head down to the ring to see the Fey Queen herself, Kathjina, and the Spectre Sonata's own TK to face off for the 3rd time, this time in a hardcore match. And it's an interesting case about how this has escalated, particularly since, as we said, the original focus of Kathjina was getting on Jagger, but the first person the brass sent against her was TK. TK, who, let's remind everyone, has pinned Johan Mule, also body slammed him outside of the off of the ring. She's tiny but mighty.
Very true.
So this is, and of course, there's the recent events that with the currently missing Punk Master Ghost, that they may have located where he is, and where he is, if they're right, is a very interesting place. But yeah, there we see, in this hardcore, slamming the Nekomata? I never get that right. Nekomata? Oh, good. I'm finally learning one of these terms. And slamming the Nekomata onto that steel chair before giving a twisting neck breaker off of the ring apron onto the floor. And it's just, at this point, you can just tell that Kathjina has become absolutely frustrated with the fact that the not being able to put one over on TK has taken some teeth out of her threat to the brass. So really, at this point, you're dealing with a make or break moment. If Kathjina can't pull the win out here, then it's what chance is there going to be that the brass is going to take her seriously enough to eventually get that match? And then we have that a poison mist. Now, let's remember that before all of this happened, it was Kathjina who worked with Graven, the chocolate zombie, to cure Tiki the Troll of the poisoning he received from Earl King Wes. A moment that Graven is still suffering for. And now we have Kathjina spitting a poison mist at TK to get, finally, a victory over the cat. So at this point, it's like, we said make or break moment for Kathjina, but it also now seems like also by hook or by crook.
Certainly does seem that way.
Now, what that is going to result in, well, let's just say we're already hearing
rumblings.
That's exactly I was trying to see, is there a better word than rumblings? And there really isn't. When I say rumblings, I mean that literally. The Titantron has been making sounds. Yeah.
Oh, that's always good.
Yeah, no, it's yeah. And yeah, with that. So I guess the question is, because now we've got Kathjina is still hunting Jagger Blackthorn. Jagger, for his part, seems to be focused primarily on getting into that main event to take on Nero, but also dealing with the perennial thorn in his side, Simon the Psycho, who, let's remember, Simon is the reason that Kathjina knows anything happened at all. And I still would like to know how Simon found this out. I still have several questions on this situation. And that's just one of them. And then somewhere in this mix, you've got Nadja, the Beast Mom, who has been acting as a mentor of sorts to TK while taking on this issue, although she seems to be not unsympathetic to Kathjina's plight, but perhaps not as much to her methodology. And now, let's not forget that there is the rest of Spectre Sonata involved. I guess we'll have to wait to see what else gets thrown into this, but that's where it sits at the moment. So let's move on. As we had been talking about earlier in the show, there is the question of the Bone Warriors Championship. The Bone Warriors have held the tag belts since last Multivania. We are just
almost full year.
We are days away from them having held those belts for 11 months. And they have gone through practically the entire tag roster on Friday Night Flashbang. At this point, if we listed everyone they face, we'd basically just be listing most of the tag teams on Flashbang. There are very few left for them to face. And in a recent qualifying match, the forces of nature, Huge Mane, and the king of the showcases, Big Rock, both won the opportunity to be the next contenders for those belts. However, there has been a long simmering issue between the Bone Warriors and the Cartel, where Victor Vicious maintains that his boys would have won that opportunity if only the Bone Warriors hadn't stopped him from interfering in their match with the Time Bandits during the Deus Pulp Invitational Tag Team Tournament. He may have used slightly different wording. And since then, they have been claiming that they have been unfairly denied an opportunity to go after the belts. This, of course, has led to several matches between members of the Cartel and the Bone Warriors, particularly the Mad World. So tonight, we will be looking at this non-title match between the Bone Warriors, Burden, and his partner, Spike, taking on the Mad Jester Fool and the Madness, Mad World, the members of the Cartel. And this is, to my knowledge, the first time these two teams have met as teams. Also, a little bit of confusion there at the beginning. I guess everyone thought that it was going to be a traditional tag match until the referee had to remind them that it was a tornado tag match.
But not really as bulky as Burden.
Not sure how
Caught
you
them off guard.
Yeah, and my first question is, wait, was that a miscommunication? Was it a last-minute change? Was somebody trying to psych somebody out? I don't know. Thing is, this is an interesting setup. But one thing I will say is you can see a lot in a tornado match. It's definitely a unique form of wrestling. It's two teams just basically hammering on each other. But I will caution everyone, the skill set of a tornado tag match, trust me, is not the same skill set as a traditional tag match.
Oh, obviously.
So the dynamics are very, very different. This is much more akin to, having to keep your head on a swivel because there's always something going on that you may not be involved with.
Splash and connects in the corner.
But initially, we see the absolute dominating strength of the Bone Warriors. Right now, the madness is where no one wants to be, outside the ring with
outside the ring.
But then the action gets back in the ring, and one of the things that is very interesting is how resilient. Madjester Fool has shown to be an interesting figure, hard to keep track of, but apparently also capable of taking a great deal of punishment. And then you've got the sudden strikes of Madness, who, again, Madness is the one person in this match who is a Flashbang original. A member of the original roster. But then the Bone Warriors, longtime members of the Multiverse, and then double finish. So, as I was saying earlier, not a traditional tag match, not the type of match you were normally going to have for the belts. But on the other hand, Mad World, and thus the cartel, are making a strong statement of they should have a chance at the belt. So, as we've said, I'm waiting to hear. I have heard the possibilities from the brass that the Forces of Nature match versus the Bone Warriors may be happening before Multivania. And if that's the case, then it's going to be the question of who gets the next shot, who gets that Multivania shot. And that even leads the question of who's the champions going into Multivania. Because we have seen in recent weeks, in fact, we'll even see later tonight, there's going to be a match between Hutch Cale of the Cartel and Huge Bane of the Forces of Nature. But there is a lot going on.
So much. It's hard to keep track of.
It really is. It really. I mean, but yet that's our job. That's
Yep.
what you and I are here for, Pete. It's our job to keep track of everything going on, and sometimes that's quite the handful. And one of those things that's hard to keep track of is who all is throwing their hat in the ring for a shot at qualifying for the main event 8-man showcase match for the World Heavyweight Championship at Multivania. And we now are going to hear from this week's audio promo of the week from one of the people who is making their declaration to enter that match.
Strength, integrity, an unwavering constitution, bravery. These are the qualities of a great wrestler, a great man, and a great champion. A man whose accolades make him not only feared in the ring, but loved by the people. This noble, majestic, ultra-genius, super handsome man deserves to be your champion. Who is he? Well, his name is...
Oh God, my foot! What was I doing? Oh yeah. How's it going, Multiverse? It is me, your friend Seth Jackson, who is your friend. You know, Seth Jackson. And if you want an action-packed event this Multivania, if you want to bring justice to the championship, then you can bet on justice taking of that championship. And by justice, I mean me, Justice Jackson, first name Seth. This message has been proved. My name is Seth Jackson, and I proof this message. Oh God, I'm never having a quesadilla ever again.
That happened.
It did. It did. I mean, that's Seth Jackson, ladies and gentlemen, declaring his wish to enter that one of the qualifying matches between now and Multimania for his shot at glory. And yeah, hope his therapy sessions with Dr. Caliban are still going great.
Well, and apparently he really needs to stay away from quesadillas for some
He
reason.
really, well, you know what worries me? Whose quesadilla did he eat?
Ooh.
He's been known to go into the refrigerator at Caliban's and just grab whatever looks good, regardless if it's marked for someone or not.
So it might not even have been a quesadilla per se.
Well, I mean, I think they did teach him the difference between the food refrigerator in the kitchen and the experiment refrigerator in the lab.
Well, that's good at least.
That happened, as far as you know, that only happened once.
Well, sometimes it only takes once.
Well, fortunately, Dr. Caliban was right there with a stomach pump and some adrenaline. So, that was... Yeah. No, the bigger danger
Could have
is...
done an Epicac, but where's the fun in that?
The bigger danger is when he eats something that is marked Christopher.
But that's a danger for different reasons.
Whole different reasons, yeah. Speaking of the main event at Multivania, last week there was an 8-man showcase match featuring 8 members of the Empire of Terror, all vying for a spot at that match. That showcase was won by Simon the Psycho. But in an interesting moment, the Grim Reaper seemed to take great exception to that, which is interesting because you would think the Reaper would be happy that a member of the Empire got in, but yet he wasn't, and thus challenged Simon to a match, which Simon said no. But then Mr. Lawson decided that that's not Simon's call, and thus we get this match. Now, I have been studying this. Well, first off, let's go look at that match between, Simon the Psycho and then the Grim Reaper, who I was doing some analysis, looking over some past footage. And here's one of the interesting facts that dawned on me. It has been stated many times by both the Reaper and Earl King West that the Grim Reaper is, in fact, the chief strategist of the Empire of Terror. He formulates their battle plans. And thus I asked myself, why would the Grim Reaper be so angry at Simon for winning that match? And then it dawned on me, because that wasn't the plan.
And now right hand, Simon trying to fight back.
I think the Empire went into that 8-man match with a plan, and I think that plan was not executed. And I think that's where we find ourselves now. Now, I could be going off on a complete flight of fancy, Pete. I mean, I'm just basing this off of things I've been able to suss out. But that's the theory I'm coming from about why the Grim Reaper would be so upset at this turn of events.
And down they go. Go for that pin.
Quick cover.
Yeah, I mean, that's a safe assumption.
It certainly fits all of the available evidence.
Reaper
Right.
just sat up.
And that
And a drop kick.
because otherwise I'm trying, if it was just a matter of going for personal glory, all of them, wouldn't other members of the Empire have been equally coming after Simon?
You've been dropped on that, haven't you, Rabbit?
Oh, and I've lost
So this is what I think.
that thick, I'll tell you. Oh,
And we are getting on social media, we're getting a message from Kathgina, and people claim Earl King has an ego problem. Simon just did what the brass told him to do. You remember what they say, Jerry. No handing anyone the match, or no one gets the spot. That's true. That's true. But again, this is the strategy. And what we also see, here's the thing you can remember with this victory. A lot of people give the Grim Reaper grief for, they make fun of how he, of how he comes to the ring sometimes. But the Grim Reaper is one of the oldest members of the Flashbang and the MNW roster. He predates so much that we know in MNW. And then here, this is the other thing I think lends credence to my theory. I mean, he already beat Simon. Why is he then attacking him after the match? Why is he beating on him and punishing him after the match is over? If not as a message, stick to the plan. I mean, I can only think of one other reason why he would do that, Pete.
What's that? That
the Empire is sick of Simon's shit as everyone else.
I mean, that's always a possibility.
I mean, it's always a possibility. I mean, can you imagine having to share a locker room with him?
Rather not.
Versus, the Grim Reaper. You know what? I look at the Grim Reaper, and you know what the first thing I'm thinking is? He strikes me as the kind of guy that would bring pastries for the crew.
Maybe.
Old family recipe. It's possible. Got a social media tweet from Mizuki Napier, and it seems to be her humming some kind of rather grim tune.
That's not ominous?
No, not at all. I'm sure it'll be fine. And, but either way, now it is the Grim Reaper going into that match in the main event of Multivania, along with Nitzig Gunk Gobbler and, of course, the World Heavyweight Champion, Nero Napier. Well, now turning our eyes away from that for the moment, let's get back onto, for the moment, let's get back into focus on the tag team scene. We, of course, saw earlier the Mad World defeating the Bone Warriors in a non-title match, looking for the chance to prove that they should be facing them. Well, this next match is a member of the cartel going against a member of the #1 contenders for the tag belt. And that is Huge Mane being accompanied by his partner Big Rock, facing Hutch Cale being accompanied by the leader of the cartel, Victor Vicious. And you can see how serious he's come. The Mandalorian he's coming out in the good armor. Yeah, he's coming out in the Beskar. Which, if I was facing an elemental like Huge Mane, I would want all the protection I could get too.
This is true.
Also getting on social media from the Grim Reaper. No comment about the baked sweet goods. It's not a denial. Anyway, yes. So Hutch, again, the cartel has now made the argument that they can beat the Bone Warriors. Now the next argument to make is that they're better than the forces of nature. That, again, make that point that they deserve a shot. And one of the best ways this is go after one of the members of the Forces of Nature. And interestingly, Huge Mane is always sort of the background partner in this team. There is so much focus on Big Rock because of his various accolades in Flashbang. You know, he is the undisputed king of the showcase matches. He won the first ever match on Flashbang, on the very first show. He won the Monster Mash at Breakdown 4, and he was, from that, a contender for Nero Napier's heavyweight championship. So everyone focuses on those Big Rock and those big, strong hands, and they sometimes do not pay enough attention to Huge Mane. They look at the Rock and they ignore the tree. And one person has already made the comment about the match between the Bone Warriors and the Forces of Nature, that sticks and stones might break those bones.
I was going to say not being able to see the forest for the trees, but
that, that also works. And Huge Mane coming out and not wanting to be ignored anymore, I would think. There's been a new energy in Huge Mane in these last few months. He's been coming more and more into his own. A lot of people have described it as if he has a new spirit in him. But all we know is that Huge Mane has actually gotten a singles win here over Hutch Cale. Thus, putting a little bit of a lie to that argument that the cartel deserves the shot more than Big Rock and Huge Mane.
Yep, not gonna get too many points in their argument with this.
No, I mean, really not. That's going to be, the cartel will have to do something else. But again, we're still waiting to hear on exactly when the Bone Warriors and the Forces of Nature will face off. We could hear, I've heard possibilities it could be as early as tomorrow night. That really comes down to...
We'll just have to tune in tomorrow to find out.
Really going to have to tune in to Friday Night Flashbang to know for sure. It really comes down to whatever decision is made by Mr. Lawson and the brass. And, as we saw earlier tonight, Mr. Lawson is, looks like at this point, taking an even firmer hand in what's going on. I get the feeling I really get the feeling he's about done. Yeah, I think he's put up with about all he's going to put up with. So,
I mean, I've been there.
I mean, yeah, but the difference is all you and I can go is why Lawson can do something.
True.
So that's the difference. Although, and again, we've said this before, it's even hand, but I think if Lawson has proven anything, I know a lot of people have issue because of how he had to be brought in with the whole situation with the suspension of Mr. Rabbit as general manager and Lawson being appointed by the brass to come in to oversee things while that suspension is being reviewed. And, because Lawson has a stern and abrupt personality, a lot of people took a dislike to him. But if you look at his booking history, he's never really shown favoritism. He sometimes he will book matches as a message, but that message is usually never personal. So take of that what you will. Now, speaking of the suspension of Mr. Rabbit, and more to the point, the person responsible for that suspension, one Scott E. Stevens, somebody the Firing Line audience is very familiar with. Stevens won a match. It was a triple threat match between Stevens, El Pollo de la Muerte, and Jagger Blackthorn. And the prize for that match was the opportunity to qualify for one of the 7 slots at the main event showcase match at Multivania in a one-on-one match versus having to win a 8-man showcase match. Well, now it's time for the gentleman of MNW to step in the ring and see who he gets to face. And now the interesting thing is, and this was never made clear, if Stevens were to lose, does that mean his opponent qualifies for that 8-man? These are the important questions. Indeed. But given past precedent, probably. And
Possibly.
Who gets that chance? Well, after we have the gentleman come down to the ring, it turns out it's Dr. Caliban's lab assistant, Donkey Kang, being accompanied by the good doctor himself down to ringside. And right off the bat, you can tell Stevens isn't happy. And part of that is Scott is a highly accomplished, highly respected wrestler on the roster. And Donkey Kang is beloved, but Donkey Kang, the one thing that everyone knows about Donkey Kang is nearly 2 years in the Flashbang roster, he has yet to ever score an actual victory. Now, he's been in many showcase matches, and he pinned a lot of people. In fact, there was a theory going about during some of the early days of the showcase matches that Donkey Kang actually had more pins than anyone else on Flashbang, just that he never managed to get the final one. And so you have Donkey Kang here, not just hoping to qualify for that match at Multivania, but hoping to score his first victory. And you see Dr. Caliban doing his best to give his, I guess, protege now opportunity to rest. But if you're Scotty Stevens, the first thing that has to go through your mind is, what's going to happen? What's going to be the reputation of the person who is the first person to lose to Donkey Kang? Even though everyone wants to see him get that win.
No one wants to be the one that gets it.
No one wants to be the person to have that asterisk in their record. Especially not the gentleman of MNW. You know, one of the things we know about him, he is a proud man. And yeah, the last thing he wants is to be the one where everyone goes, oh yeah, you know, you lost to a man in a Walmart vest. Don't know why Donkey Kang is still wearing that. He hasn't worked at Walmart in months.
Maybe he's comfortable.
Maybe he likes it. Maybe he thinks it's part of his look. I mean, he's Caliban's lab assistant now, though. But then, you know, you have the masterclass. Now, I don't know if you people noticed that because I was talking over it. Scotty Stevens gave Donkey Kang a low blow.
What?
Yeah,
That's unheard of.
Yeah, he went downtown. And Donkey Kang was pissed. I mean, it's one thing to lose. It's another thing to lose to underhanded tactics. And so mad he actually decked the ref. Which, you know, that's an automatic fine, which I believe Dr. Caliban is paying. Because it is part of, you know, he's part of the House of Caliban now. But that's still... Hang on. Oh, we've got a call coming in, Pete. Want to guess who's calling us? Never mind.
Gee, is it Scotty Stevens?
Let's pick up the line. I think. Hello, you're on Firing Line.
Hey, what do you know? It is Scott E. Stevens.
Hey, I win.
Well, Scott, congratulations. You're going to Multivania in the main event.
As if there was ever any doubt. Before we go on, I want to point out that the only reason you think I hit Donkey Kong below the belt is because Eric Erickson said that I hit Donkey Kong below the belt. But if you go back and look at the footage, you can't make that determination. And that is, at best, slander. And I'm frankly insulted that that Eric would assume that because I made Donkey Kong double over in pain that I kicked him below the belt. The referee was right there. And he didn't disqualify me, so I must not have hit him below the belt. So, Eric Erickson, I'm sure you're listening. I await your apology.
All right. Well, then, what is your explanation? We've never seen Donkey Kong get that mad at a loss before, and let's be honest, he's lost plenty.
Sure. Well, as you pointed out, there are some huge implications to that match. Let's talk about the implications for me, first of all, because that's clearly more important. Everyone wants to, say that I was taking the match lightly because it's Donkey Kong and no one's ever lost to Donkey Kong. That's exactly the point. I had everything to lose in that match. Not only would I have lost my ticket to the main event of Multivania had I lost that match, but I would have been the first person to suffer a defeat at the hands of Donkey Kong. That would have done irreparable damage to my career. And as Mr. Generickson and I have agreed on various occasions, any given Friday, any wrestler can get that win, as big an upset as it might be. So, anybody who thinks that match was a cakewalk for me, that I was, under no pressure going into that match, I was under all of the pressure. I just wanted to make that clear. And then for Donkey Kong, there's a clear implication that he might have gotten to my spot had he beaten me. And to be perfectly honest, for me to have suffered such an insult, such disgrace, and for him to be the one to do it, you know what? I would have petitioned for him to have it, to be perfectly honest. So for him to have a potentially huge opportunity, and what he may have thought as his best opportunity to finally break his epic losing streak, because let's be honest, every single person who is on the Flashbang roster or is a fan of Flashbang underestimates me. And I'm sure Donkey Kong, especially now that he's under the tutelage of Dr. Caliban and company, would be more confident than usual and would underestimate me, because what am I? I'm just a man. I'm not a garden shears wielding orc in a football helmet. I'm not a sometimes no-eyed, sometimes all-the-eyed monstrosity. I'm not a snake man. I'm not Death himself. I'm not a Super Sentai hero. I'm just a man in spandex. And because of all the cartoon characters that are running around Flashbang, everybody wants to underestimate me. But the difference between Donkey Kong and me, okay, well, there's a lot of differences between Donkey Kong and me, because I've got the charisma, I've got the talent, I've got the looks, I've got the wardrobe, I've got the money. But see, he's got the hopes and the adoration and the support of all the fans. And that's all well and good. Nobody supports me because everybody underestimates me, because nobody thinks that I'm ever going to win. Well, I won last night. I won last week. I won the week before. And I promise you, especially because nobody thinks I will win at Multivania. And I hope against hope, I wish against wish, that not only am I the person to walk out of Multivania as the new World Heavyweight Champion, but that I am the one who forces Nero Napier to submit.
All right. Well, there you are. Then I'm going to ask you a question, Scott.
By all means.
Been a while since the subject's come up, but there's new activity happening, and we're coming up to Multivania, which is often a huge reset button in events. But at some point, the brass has to make a decision on Mr. Rabbit, one way or another. So the first question I'm going to ask is, what has been your overall assessment? And I think I know because we have talked about this before, but with recent events, what is your current assessment of the performance of Mr. Lawson?
I think Mr. Lawson has been doing a fantastic job. He has demonstrated precisely zero favoritism across the roster, and that includes me. Like, I know there are people out there that are going to accuse me of brown nosing and trying to get chummy with Mr. Lawson and the brass. All I've been doing is trying to prove myself, doing what any wrestler can ever be asked to do, and that's perform their very best and strive to be the very best in this business. And Mr. Lawson, by way of the brass, or the brass by way of Mr. Lawson, have given not just me, but several other members of the roster opportunities that they would have never gotten under Mr. Rabbit's watchful eye. As has been made clear by the multitude of opportunities that have popped up since Rabbit's suspension. And so, long story short, I think he's been doing a fantastic job. And no one can accuse him of holding any bias towards anybody. He has come down on people who have tried to take matters into their own hands that would otherwise be under the purview of the brass, as has made clear earlier in this show. And that's not something that Rabbit would ever do, especially in the case of his best buddy old pal, our esteemed champion Nero Napier.
Well, now that brings up a question then. As we were saying, it's been a while, and it feels like we should be getting close to a resolution on, one way or another, the situation with Mr. Rabbit. Do you feel it's come to a time where the brass should make their final determination?
I would say so. Mr. Rabbit has had a few months to think about what he had done to deserve his suspension, the things that he had done to warrant an outcry from the roster for his suspension, for this review of his performance, of his ability to be the general manager in an unbiased fashion. If given his testimony and the testimony of whoever the brass wants to get testimony from, if they decide to reinstate Mr. Rabbit, I hope and pray that he's learned his lesson, that he's taken example from Mr. Lawson, who's been doing a fantastic job in the meantime. I hope that Mr. Rabbit, if he comes back, will strive to be the kind of general manager that Mr. Lawson has been able to be in his absence. Wow. And I'm not done yet. And if he doesn't come back, if the brass decides that he's irredeemable, then to hell with him. If they want to keep him on as a wrestler, fine. If Mr. Rabbit wants to get some sort of retribution against me for costing him his job, fine. I'll be waiting after Multivania.
Well, and as we wrap this segment up, Scott, is there any message you want to send out to the Firing Line audience?
I would normally have like some sort of a witty one-liner, but I've been so distracted because my home universe has been opening up doors to have me wrestle in more and more places after hearing about my exploits here in MNW and over in other places in the multiverse. But I guess if I need to say one thing is go ahead and continue to underestimate me. Go ahead and continue to doubt me. Go ahead and keep me out of your conversations about who's going to walk out of Multivania as the world champion. Because I love more than anything else to prove all you motherfuckers wrong.
All right, and with that, ladies and gentlemen, that was Scott E. Stevens.
Boy, was it.
I'm sorry?
I said, boy, was it.
It was the Scott E. Stevens at his Scottiest and his Steveniest. All right. Now, originally that was supposed to be our penultimate match. And after that, we were supposed to get into the main event. But then the alarm bells went off. Which is to say, suddenly there was a interdimensional intrusion, and as per the duties therein with the interdimensional belt, the defender of the multiverse, the interdimensional champion, was called down to the ring to defend. So it was the Citric King coming down to face King. An individual we've seen before from outside of our realms. He has faced Shere Khan. He has been in the 64-man tournament. He has some, as of yet, undisclosed history with Jack Andrews. And now he came for some purpose into the multiverse, and that required the Citric King to come down to face the King in a battle of royals. And as we see, this is, of course, a heck of a match, because King has one of the most well-respected fighters in any reality.
It's true.
And he, when you have him coming to the ring, you have to have respect. I mean, I would want to be concerned about anyone from the Tekken universe, but especially King. You know, because, I mean, he understands wrestling better than anyone there, being the prime lucha, as it were. And so
maybe perhaps Armored King, though.
Okay, fair. And then you've got Citric King, who, of course, one of the most decorated tag wrestlers in MNW, and of course, having his since that victory against Earl King West at the last breakdown, has been our interdimensional champion, defending it both on Flashbang and Warzone, and having to defend against the likes of the Marauder and the members of the Warzone roster and Sonic the Hedgehog.
1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 all stomped.
So,
yeah, and that's so that's the and here he is now facing King, who, despite that show of disrespect, let's face it, this is, I think a lot of people thought the Marauder might have been his hardest opponent. I would argue that I'd be more concerned about King. King and his understanding of how to counter a wrestler. But anyway, get into it. And once again, Citric King has shown to be a capable and stalwart interdimensional champion. Once again, defending the multiverse from outside forces.
This is his third or fourth victory now?
Well, I guess it depends on how we count it. This is his third victory against an invader from another reality.
Right.
And then I want to say he's had about 3 matches on Warzone against just members of the Warzone roster as a regular belt defense.
Right.
So that would stand as, I guess, a total of 6 defenses since Breakdown. He's definitely been excuse me. he's definitely been earning his keep, as it were.
Absolutely.
And now, we've been talking about that match at Multivania, but before we get there, Nero Napier has one last roadblock to get through before he gets to Multivania and celebrates a 1-year reign with his championship. Because somebody did win the right to face the Apex Predator one-on-one for the gold. And that person was Death himself, Helix Sucks. And Nero coming down in, not his regular garb. Nero comes down in an outfit that when we see it, we know, all right, Nero means business. Comes out not wearing the jacket that apparently he got from Mr. Rabbit. Not anything. He's coming down bare-chested and just ready for business against the former Multiverse Heavyweight Champion, Helix Sucks. Really, I would think this has to be the biggest challenger, not just in size, but in accomplishment that Nero has had to face yet.
Well, I think anybody is going to be concerned when their opponent is Helix Sucks.
Right. And, Helix has held a world championship. He has defeated so many opponents. He proved himself against two of the other top stars on the Flashbang roster, defeating both Jagger Blackthorn and El Pollo de la Muerte. And now here we have him putting Nero Napier in death's door. But, Nero, being the skilled technical wrestler that he is, had that one well scouted. And we'd actually see both men putting multiple finishers on each other during the match. But both being so skilled in that area, it was a definite back and forth. I think the one thing is, I do feel at times Nero has come into some of his matches dismissively. He's seen some of the people he's had to face, and he's looked at it as having that in the bag. I don't think he had this. Seeing how he came to the ring, you can tell Nero knew this wasn't going to be a simple walk in the park to defend his gold. That this was going to be a match that he had to put his all into just to be able to come out the other side, still being the Flashbang World Heavyweight Champion. And thus, having to pull out all the stops on Helix Sucks. And then getting finally a final coil on Helix and making death tap. And I suppose when you're an Apex Predator, there is no greater goal than to defeat death.
Yep.
And thus Nero secures that victory and guarantees his 1-year reign, that he will return to Multivania as the champion and will get that 1-year accolade on his record. And we are getting another message on social media from Kathgina. To whoever is given to me, next by the brass, I'm done playing. I'm playing for In the Words of My Friend, Blood. All right, I guess quoting, of all people, Theron Eldrazi of the Outlaws. And okay, I'm also getting a note from Phyllis in the production truck. We have a call online. So, ladies and gentlemen, if Phyllis is giving me the correct information, on the phone now, we have the Queen of Apex and wife of Nero Napier. Ladies and gentlemen, Mizuki Napier.
Howdy, y'all. How's everybody doing this fine Thursday evening?
We're doing well, Mizuki. So obviously, congratulations to your husband. He defeated death and is now definitely heading to Multivania as the champ, going into a match that he himself requested.
I personally don't understand why he requested that, but my husband does work in mysterious ways, and so do I.
So, yeah, he's going in. He will face 7 other competitors. On the other hand, 2 years later, he still has yet to be pinned or submitted at all. So, I suppose if anyone can go in being an optimist, it's Nero. So Mizuki, with all this focus on Nero, what are you looking for Multivania? Do you have any plans or goals for the biggest show of the year?
Oh, plans, definitely. But will I give any information, even a sliver of a spoiler? No.
All right. Well, but Mizuki, since you did call in, I assume you do have something you do want to say to the Firing Line audience.
Oh, it was just something I was whistling earlier.
Yeah, I saw that on social media. You were whistling a little tune.
Well, yes, it goes something like, Rockabye champions on the treetops. When the wind blows, the cradle will rock. And when that bough breaks, the cradle will fall. And down will come the champions, cradle and all.
All right. Anything else before we move on to the next part of the evening?
No, I believe that is all from me. Y'all have a nice afternoon now.
Okay, and thank you, Mizuki. All right, and looks like the phone lines are really lighting up there, Pete. Well, this is interesting. Don't get calls from him very often. Ladies and gentlemen, looks like on the phone we have the chocolate zombie himself, Graven.
Oh, hey, it's been a couple of weeks.
Graven, we haven't seen you since you laid out what exactly happened between you and Kathgina to cure Tiki the Troll, and then your declaration that despite not being in top form, that you want to go after a slot for the main event at Multivania.
Yeah, it's like I said, on my worst days, I'm still better than almost the entire roster out there. And typical brass, I still haven't gotten a reply from them yet. So, it's still out there. And like I said, if one way or another, I'm going to prove my point that I can get the job done, whether or not I'm not at 100%. And if the brass don't want to do this the easy way, I have no problem taking the hard route.
Fair enough. So is there any message you want to send out to anyone in the MNW universe, Graven?
I do have one thing to say. Kathgina, I understand where you're coming from. I do. Let fate help you. I understand why you're mad at Jagger. Believe me, if it happened to me, I would be too. But fate is very strung apart right now. He's one of the only people we have left, and if you'll just stop for a moment and listen, I'm sure, if not Jagger, Artemis, somebody, even me, we'll try to do what we can to make things right for you. Even if I have to fight you as I am, I know you had some sort of a hand in helping me take care of Tiki, but I will put my body on the line to help you see this through.
All right. Well, a surprisingly heartfelt message from the Chocolate Zombie. Graven, thank you very much for stopping by the show tonight, and best of luck getting into the main event at Multivania.
Oh, absolutely. I hope you guys have a great show.
All right. Thank you. Completely new leaf for the Chocolate Zombie. And wait a minute, I'm getting what? Hang on a second. Phyllis is. It's interesting. She's sending a message that really comes down to just, oh dear God, pick up the phone. Okay. Hello?
Yeah, you know who it is. You know who the hell it is. It's me, Seth Jackson. How's it going, Gary?
Hello, Seth. Yes, Seth, we heard from you earlier in the evening. This week's audio promo of the week, your declaration of wanting to be a chance to qualify for the main event at Multivania.
I'm tired of, you know what? I decided to go after it. David said we could go after belts now, and I'm tired of all the bureaucracy.
Bureaucracy?
The tape, the duct tape on the policy, and the yeah.
Okay, so, well, I mean, you have made your declaration. We all heard it. We heard it on Friday. We heard it here again tonight. So I guess you have officially made that known.
Yep.
Seth, I got a question, though, about the quesadilla.
Okay, listen. Turns out you have to cook chicken in order for it to be safe to eat.
Okay, so it wasn't somebody else's food marked for someone else that you ate.
Nope.
All right.
So it was raw chicken in a tortilla and cheese?
Listen, I put a few things in the griddle I have plugged into the cigarette lighter of my truck. It's good for eating on the go. You should consider getting one.
I see. All right. So Seth, anything else coming up we need to know about?
I mean, no. Unless you want me to do a birthday party, at $20.
It's okay. And how are your therapy sessions with Dr. Caliban going?
I mean, it's going good, besides the fact that I am now immune to several tranquilizers.
Interesting. And are you done with the investigation of the Caliban household?
Yeah, I pretty much cleared everything up there.
All right, fair enough. Well, then, Seth, and so help me, I have to ask this. Seth, is there anything else you'd like to say to the Firing Line audience as we wrap up for the evening?
My name is Seth Justice Jackson, and I am an actual perpetrator of justice, unlike Mad Jack. And guess what? It's no longer pending. I got the paperwork back in the mail, and I read it. I don't understand what it means, but I just took out the thing for my name.
Very well. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Seth Jackson of Arcane Protection Services. Thank you, Seth, and we'll see you around the multiverse.
What?
Goodbye.
Huh?
Yeah, Pete, go ahead and press the button. Okay, there we go. You know what? Before anything else happens, I think, why don't we go to the Flashbang moment of the week?
Yeah.
I think that's probably the safest thing to do right now. Yeah, but first, of course, a word from our sponsor.
Have you or a beloved faction member suffered from a preventable workplace injury, jobber discrimination, threatening lawsuits from VIP, or harassment from Trashman Jones? You may be entitled to financial compensation and physical retribution. If so, please call Gorwheel & Associates Law Firm to schedule an appointment. We handle all cases, whether they be civil litigation, criminal litigation, or a backstage beatdown. We understand it's tough out here in the Nexus, and you need someone to both watch your back and break the other guys. So call 1-800-NEXUS-DEFENSE. And remember, you don't pay a fee unless we get blood and money for you.
Oh, and he was looking for something. Oh, wait, that's a low blow. Come on. Ref.
Damn!
That was very below the belt, and the referee, Scott, with his back to him.
That was right in the Cape Canaverals. He destroyed the entire
And here
space
comes the
program
master
there.
class.
Here's
Come
the master
on.
class.
This is ridiculous.
This
90
might be
taps
it.
out.
Yeah, Kang
Way to
stabbed
go,
him.
Scott.
Jesus.
Here is your winner, Scott E. Stevens. Oh, and DK is pissed. DK is not happy. Oh, and he hit the ref.
Oh, he hit legs.
DK just hit the ref. He was not happy about that low blow at all.
And there you have it. Your Flashbang moment of the week. All right, hang on, Pete. Let me go see if everything's ready. Joe! Come on, Joe, it's time. Wake up, Joe.
Yeah, fucking. Hey, how's it going, everybody?
It's good, Joe. I know you're busy. It's, you're... Okay, Joe. You showed me the preview. I actually know what's coming this week. So I got to ask a really important question.
Yeah.
Are you okay?
I've been better.
Okay.
I've been going through a couple things, and you'll see why.
Yeah. I mean, you're sure everything's.
I don't want to talk about it.
Okay, fair. You know what? I think at this point that's not much else we can do. Joe, is everything loaded up?
Everything's loaded up, and for my own sake, I'm going to be hitting mute until it's over.
Yeah, that's probably fair. So, ladies and gentlemen, the Callout with Joe Mojo.
Thank you, Firing Line, and welcome back to the Callout, my show. All right, so, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be very real with everybody here. The main thing that I try and tell personnel when they get started here, show no fear. But my guest this week terrifies me beyond belief. Words can't really do this justice. So, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Grimm. So, Dr. Grimm, thank you for joining us via satellite.
The greatest moment of your life, I'm sure. But allow me to stress this to you. My time is worth more than your life. Let's not waste either, shall we?
You don't have to tell me twice. You are by far the most mysterious man we have here in MNW. But for those who have never heard of you before, what can you tell us about yourself?
You know, I'm a humble god, so I think I'll keep this brief. I'm the greatest scientific mind in the multiverse. The multiple-time Warpgate Hardcore Champion. The last X-Division Champion. The conqueror of Isla Scorn.
Isla Scorn. Why does that sound so familiar?
The leader of the Faces of Fear. The only being in the multiverse the clowns bend a knee to. The orchestrator behind the fall of the Inquisition and Lord Tomasian Graves. Not to mention the sole reason the Nexus exists as it does.
But for those who don't know, MNW was previously ran by a promotion called Lucha Underground. Can you tell us what happened to Lucha Underground? More so, what you did.
Seeing as the pardon I received from my dear associate Lord Tomasian Graves cleared me of any wrongdoing, I'll simply tell it the way the storyteller does. Untold billions of voices were suddenly silenced as a chaotic confluence of torrential energies ruptured the very fabric of time and space, creating a feedback loop that shattered the nigh impregnable barriers of the multiverse A loop that repeated and repeated, unleashing more and more energy in such rapid succession, straining the band of reality until it could strain no further. It snapped. And they call Helix Lux the embodiment of death? Pompous jackass.
Yeah, that explains everything. During those early days in MNW, you led a stable called the Ascension. How did that faction come about?
Yes. It all started in Lucha Underground before its destruction and the subsequent purge of half of our roster. In those days, oftentimes, you would team up with others of similar ideals in order to try to survive. The Ascension was all about those that wanted to ascend past the woeful limitations of their simple existences, of course. It first started with myself and a pair of guys calling themselves Victor and Connor. They unfortunately never made it past the Great Purge, so I was left alone. Until I looked out, and I found the likes of Ramund, Black Hole, Ogre, and Hightower. Then, going by Convict 311. It was about then we waged war with the Faces of Fear, and we sowed the seeds of doubt into the mind of Helix Lux, forcing him to leave the faction.
So it was you who was responsible for Helix Lux leaving the original carnation of the Faces of Fear, later on to form the new Four Horsemen.
Yes, the Ascension and the Faces of Fear warred pretty hard back then, although I don't think that was the only circumstance to the decision. This was about the time that Helix was forced to put on the mask after he was brutalized by Lucius. Things fell apart shortly after, though. Ogre put a knife in my back during a match with Notorious CAT after he won the Cursed Championship. To be honest, I was impressed he had it in him. I'm still going to take his knees the next time I see him, though.
After the Ascension dissolved, you were seen leading Kane and Storyteller as the Order when the Inquisition was coming about. For those who don't know, what was the relationship with the Order and Tomasi and Graves?
After the Ascension was disbanded, and my defeat at Multivania at the hands of Zacco Duo, I got the hell out of Dodge, knowing the clowns were coming. And clowns are going to do what clowns do best. Storyteller and I got along swimmingly. He needed something, and of course, I was the only person in the multiverse that could actually get it. So he signed up. He absorbed everything I had to teach like a sponge. Kane, on the other hand, approached me because he was seeking a therapist. I did my part to help the lad. I saw so much potential in him. Much like Storyteller, I taught him what I could, but he grew a conscience. He didn't want to hurt people. He didn't want to do bad things. Well, let's just say I can be very persuasive when I want to be. As for Tomasi and Graves, he came to the Nexus under the guise of an official inquisition going after Trashman Jones because of the clown blood. He approached me with a deal. He wanted me to bring back his brother, Hector Graves, better known as Mr. Touchums. In trade, he'd grant me a pardon of all my crimes. I agreed to bring back Touchums, but I never said I wouldn't bring back more than one, so I did. I brought back all 5. Graves demanded that I face him to answer for my actions, which led to the downfall of the Inquisition. Storyteller, who has learned everything he could from me up to this point, announced the dissolution of the Order and led Tomasi and Graves into a trap. He thought he was going to get Storytellers in a match, but instead he was met by Mr. Crushums, Mr. Smashums, and of course, his brother, Mr. Touchums. I still have a recording of the sound of Graves' neck snapping.
Speaking of clowns, and I have to ask this for public safety reasons, where are the vaudevillains?
As of this moment, they should be on Isla Scorn, working for the Hot Clown Hotline. Carnival approached me with a deal, and how could I say no?
Wait, my grandparents on Isla Scorn. Oh no.
And if they're lucky, Gresh found them and round them up before the replicant got to them.
Oh, hell no. Why are they behind you? Oh. Moving on. I'm just gonna not look at the screen. We only have a few more questions before we wrap up. We only have a few more questions. So, at Breakdown 1, you were revealed as the next death of the new Four Horsemen. Given what you told us about Lucha Underground, it's very apt, but how did Chris Lee Adams approach you to join him?
Believe it or not, it was I that approached him. Storyteller and I had a grand plan of creating the strongest faction in MNW. Storyteller's part was to join the Faces of Fear and prepare their side, whereas I chose the new Four Horsemen. At the time they were on Flashbang, and I saw an opportunity to not only add to this mega faction, but also garner a few allies among the Flashbang roster. Oh, the friends I've made.
Yep. Friends made. I mean, as you did with the Faces of Fear, I mean, how long were you guys planning on overthrowing Lucius Constantine?
As soon as Helix left, I saw an opportunity. I put a crack in their armor, and I see the doubt at that point. The first Faces of Fear were stable and anchored. Bring in Story and I, and the new Four Horsemen, the resulting power struggle would prove a perfect chance to eliminate the rest of the original Faces and claim power for my own. Too many mad scientists, not enough minions and all that. But now, with me at the helm, there's an opening in the Faces of Fear, and I've got my eye on some promising new talent.
Oh my god, we're done. With all of this being said and done, as we are winding down here, thank Christ, is there anything that you would like to tell the Firing Line audience?
Storyteller, my old friend, Knight takes Rook. Now, if you excuse me, I have to go deal with the forces of justice who are currently attempting to siege my lab. Computer, release the replicant.
I have a very uncomfortable conversation with my mother that I don't want to do. Oh, crap, it's on. I would like to thank, my guests for joining us, and if you would like to see the good doctor put people into quarantine, Brad, did you write that? Please tune in to twitch.tv/Takahata101 for MNW Warzone, Saturdays at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. This has been Joe, signing out.
Well, thank you for all your hard work, Joe Mojo.
And before you ask,
yeah,
the phone call was about as uncomfortable as I thought it would be.
Yeah, I mean, fair.
I had to explain to my mother, my dear mother, about what clownanthropy is and why we can't visit anymore.
It's rough, and I mean, my first thought was, we didn't even go near. We still don't know. Several months ago, there was something happened. There was an episode of Flashbang that I looked at the footage, and it doesn't match what I remember happening when the show was going live.
What are you talking about?
Oh yeah, something happened. Several of the matches were different, and apparently there was some cryptic message from Dr. Grimm after the show. So we still don't know. I'm telling you, I was
there.
I was at the show too, but when we went over the footage, it didn't match what I remembered seeing on the show.
That's crazy talk.
Anyway, well, that's that. With that, again, Warzone is currently still on hiatus, and as such, we don't have any coverage for that. So this really brings us to the end of another MNW Firing Line. So with that said, on behalf of Pete McPherson and Joe Mojo, I'm Jerry Aldini. Good night, everyone. And we're above game.
Yeah.
That sounds like Bob had fun.
Oh god, it was fantastic. So I will admit something. I had Bob was technically my plan C for this week.
Really?
Yeah, plan A had some family troubles, so Plan B was like, oh, sure, I'd love to do it, but I kind of need to get prepared for it first. I'm like, ah, crap. Okay, yeah, we can book you for next week. And I was like, hey, Bob, can you help me out?
And there was Bob. I love that he is making it clear that one Roll With Me they did for Halloween is canonical.
Yes.
That's
yeah,
that's just awesome. Oh, hi, Bob.
Hi, Bob. Yeah, I had to add into it because like, what would be better than having someone who was actually there just to like sell the impact of, wait, what the fuck happened at Easel Scorn? You'll just have to tune into twitch.tv/LaneyPlayTour and find that one shot. It's actually very good.
I mean, I watched it live. I watched it when it was going on.
Yeah.
Or no, I didn't watch. I'm sorry, I was busy. I was streaming. No, but I did watch the VOD, so I saw it. Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah, I always have to watch the VODs for Roll With Me and those one shots, mostly because of my current schedule.
Yeah, but yeah, there we go. And geez, I'm kind of glad I got through the show without coughing too much. My asthma's been going nuts. Oh, hey, that reminds me. I should read off some subs and some raids. First off, thank you to Sonigav for the raid of 2. Welcome to the show, as always, buddy. And I want to thank Lasume01 the Robot for gifting Joe Mojo with a tier 1 sub. Would also like to thank Jane P08 for gifting Shadow Dancer Bob with a tier 1 sub. So, hello everyone. Now Bob, you have all of the Mad Science emotes, all of them. Just need to get you to my goth DJ, and then you can have all the goth point and stuff as well. But that's a whole nother story we're not going to get into right now. Yeah, I mean, there are reasons like why I went. You know what, Scott's here. I'm just going to egg him. Usually, it's like, okay, Scott, we gotta wrap it up.
Yeah.
This week I was like, hey, Scott, let me ask you like 3 more questions. Fill time. Also, thanks to Sasquatch Wing for resubscribing with Twitch Prime for 3 months. The only thing while we were going through the show is I was desperately trying to remember, because I seem to remember Bosco saying that, like, either this week or next, that the Bone Warriors and Forces of Nature are going to face off each other sooner than Multivania, but I couldn't find it written down anywhere, and I couldn't exactly remember, so that's why I left it a little vague.
I think he mentioned it on last Firing Line when he mentioned he was going to try and get through the world title and then tag and then trios.
That's probably what I'm remembering, but like I said, I didn't have enough corroboration, so I just sort of, broadly mentioned it.
Yes.
So, with that, anyone? Let's, we're here. We got a few minutes.
We're chilling, answering questions.
Chilling out, answering questions. And before anyone asks, I don't know. Bosco's been busy. I don't know if he's going to show up or not. He sometimes has been showing up lately for these last bits, but he's got other things happening. So, let's see what Bob's saying. I love the fact I got to continue running the gag with the storyteller. I was, when Joe sent me the thing, I listened to it once going, okay, is he saying anything about Caliban that I have to?
The one thing he mentioned that could allude to it, too many mad scientists, not too many minions.
That one I almost how dared, because that's a joke I've made before, and I think I've made it to Bob. But that's also the kind of thing he could have come up with on his own, because it's a pretty obvious joke. I usually say, guys, too many mad scientists, not enough hunchbacks. But so
both work well.
Go ahead, Tim.
No, I was just saying both work well.
Both, yeah, they do. The weird thing. So there is a. I ran across. I was playing it for a while. There is a casino slot game for mobile phones called Scatter Slots. And the reason I bring that up is one of their slots, they have a character who looks like a steampunk plague doctor.
Ooh.
And they did a thing recently where they told the name of all of their characters, and I shit you not, that character's name is Dr. Grimm.
Makes sense.
And my
Did
first
they
thought is,
sell some
Bob,
rights?
somebody, some slot game ripped you off.
Or their fans.
True. That's true. Yeah.
I'm
Oh yeah.
possibility.
Oh yeah. No, that's fair, Bob. So for people who don't know, Bob and I have been talking since just about Dr. Caliban's debut about we really would love to get those two characters to have a real, I don't know what, something together, face off, collaboration, whatever. We once sat down and
A
discussed
symposium.
Well, we discussed what the differences were in the characters. And this is back when, again, remember, I conceived Caliban and the Creation as heels. It was the booking that made them faces.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were determining what made them unique. Because Dr. Caliban, the way he is now, is actually how Bob kind of originally wanted to play Grimm before Grimm became much more Lex Luthor.
Right.
And the way I described it, well, yeah, as Bob said, it's lawful evil versus chaotic evil, with Caliban being lawful and Grimm being chaotic. I always akined more that it was Grimm is Lex Luthor, Caliban is James Moriarty.
Fair. I can see that.
And then, we of course over time have had Caliban, the character, becoming more, because he's been booked as a face, and I'm leaning into it. But Grimm has remained Grimm. So really they now function, I think, they could function as excellent arch enemies, except that they're on two different shows.
Of course.
And that's the whole thing of, there was this whole, during the crossover event, they got into a room and sat down, and anyone who listened at the door, they were sitting at a table. There was nothing on the table, but they were just calling off chess moves. So they were playing a game of chess, but there was nobody. They were just doing it completely in their heads.
Mm.
And yeah. Any other question? Who is Gru and who is El Machio? I don't think those two. I don't know those enough. There was an interesting analogy. Grimm had a face turn for 5 seconds in the Inquisition arc. Then he opened his mouth. Fair. There was actually
I remember because he came out to interrupt, and people for a brief moment thought he was actually coming out to save the day.
Yeah.
Then he started talking.
Well, technically.
So for anyone who doesn't know that bit that we were talking about at the end, there was a flashbang many months, long time. It was within the last year, but it was a while back, where we did the show, but for whatever reason, the VOD didn't save.
Yeah, that was.
And so
interesting.
Originally, what I was asking Bosco to do is if he could get me anything, like if he could run a couple things, so I could get some grabs that we could do, so we could throw together segments, so we could still do Firing Line. Because as Tim said, there was a show, you're not off the hook. And then he was going to get me the 2 full matches he pre-recorded, and we were just going to do them live. And then what he did is he just reran the show the next day with the 2 pre-recorded matches and resetting up. And of course, because of that, the RNG was a little different in the RNG matches, with 2 of them, but I want to say 2 or 3 matches having different outcomes. And so the gag we did was I played the video of the show we had the VOD for, but I was calling the matches as if they were the original outcomes.
Yeah, I think I made a bunch of jokes about, do you guys smell toast? Do you guys smell copper?
And then Bosco came in as Dr. Grimm at the end and made cryptic comments, which means that storyline is still dangling out there. So yeah, fun times.
But yeah, I have a couple regrets about the Grimm interview. Because we were reaching time limit, I wanted to ask about Warfist so much because I would have been like, so hey, when we had Warfist here last December, there was a guy who looked just like you, except happy, like genuinely happy. Is that you, or just something?
Yeah.
It would sound a lot more.
I mean,
than that, but we were approaching time way too.
I mean, yeah. There's always going to be issues, especially when you're running into time limitations.
Yeah.
All right. So, anyone else out there got any? Yeah, Bob's remembering. It's like time was an illusion or something like that. Yeah, something like that.
Because that's an Einstein quote, isn't it?
I think so.
Time is but an illusion.
Yeah. Well, there's also the whole Assassin's Creed thing. Nothing is real. Everything is permitted.
Yep.
I have not watched Army of the Dead yet, Dark Wolf. I haven't had, I've been, there's time is a thing. I do want to get around to it at some point. I've been watching other things with my wife, and there's other things that have been important. I'll get to it. I'm a busy guy.
Oh,
what?
I'm sorry. I mistook that for Army of Darkness, because I would have been offended for like 2 seconds.
Army of Darkness?
How the hell
No.
have you not seen Army of Darkness?
I saw Army
My
of
bad.
Darkness when it came out in the theaters.
I was about to say.
I mean, I'd seen the original Evil Dead series, so of course I was going to go see Army of Darkness.
Of course.
And I was like, yeah, this is... and I'm like, I'm sold. So, what a shock. I like horror movies. Which, so people who pay attention to my other streams, we're working on something. The watch parties may come back soon, and I might be showing more horror movies and one comedy, because we have one comedy we have to show.
One just required, just because we keep saying we're going to play it for people, and we never get around to it.
It is kind of required because it's where we get the name of our our group stream. So yeah, you see, and I remember Bob, you were getting a big kick out of the watch parties, because I was showing whatever decent horror I could find on Amazon watch parties. So stuff's in the works. We're putting things together.
Indeed, there's always something going on in the background.
So with that, I mean, we're getting near 8:00, and we don't really have. Unless people got questions. I mean, we can keep going. We usually go to 9.
Yeah,
but
I mean, I ain't got shit to do.
I don't either. Right? And hey, it's a 3-day weekend. Woohoo!
Yeah,
which is good because there's parties and there's pay-per-views, and I mean Lasume. So we have an overview. We've gotten something that I'll take as canonical for now of where the clowns are, which also ties in with a special event that happened on Lanny's stream involving the Roll With Me crew, which Bob was like, "You've got to watch it." I made a reference you're going to absolutely both love and want to throttle me for.
Yeah, literally, as you're seeing from Bob, oh, you want clown lore, and unfurls a scroll that starts rolling across the floor.
I tell you, man.
I'm not gonna lie, that would definitely fill the hour.
Yes, for those that are unaware, the clowns, when they became part of the storyline, came with a lot, and I mean a lot, of lore behind them. It didn't all get covered, but it's there. And boy, is it extensive.
It's extensive, and you will understand why Wranglums is the best boy. He's the saddest boy.
He is the saddest boy, but
I just want to give him a hug, but he'd break my back.
He does a good job.
I just imagine that he has the end credit song from Hulk playing constantly.
Yeah. Especially because that song is called "The Lonely Man."
Yep.
And yeah, other than that, I know some people have been asking all over. I just want to clarify. Last week, not Firing Line, Flashbang was early because Bosco had a commitment that he wanted to meet that was happening during normal Flashbang time. That is not the case tomorrow. Flashbang will be happening at its usual time, 5 p.m. Pacific, which is +3, 8 p.m. Eastern. So that, and we will see more fallout of all the things going on. And there, we know Taka is working on getting Warzone up and running again. He made some posts in Warzone General yesterday. So some stuff is in the works. We're just waiting to see what's going to happen.
Yep. Hang tight.
Yeah, just hold on. Hold on one more day. Wait, no, that's a Wilson Phillips song. I'm surprised I got away with the one pun I did during the Citric match, to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
No one called me. I was like, oh, God. Let's see. Rosso. Oh, hey, Rosso. Been working on a Sawyer prologue in RPG Maker. You do one piece of artwork for the cut. All right, cool.
I think I saw it in the
yes.
art sanctuary.
Dark Wolf, the plan is that Multivania will be July 4th weekend.
That is the current goal, yes.
Yeah. That is definitely what Bosco is working towards. And so that's the planned timeline. We will see how it goes. So that's why, things like settling up, that's kind of what we were talking about tonight, figuring out, that gives just enough time to have the qualifying matches for the 8-man. Sorry, I'm just glad this didn't kick in while the show proper was going on. We're going to figure out the tag belts, the trios belts, whether or not something's happening with the interdimensional there or not. And then, obviously there will need to be other matches at Multivania because there's always big things. We know a few things, and by we, I mean, I've heard a couple of things about what might be happening, but, card subject to change.
Caliban sending you a quick message real quick. You just check that.
Alrighty. Well, if I got to read this, you got to vamp.
Oh, well, because I'm so good at vamping, but I suppose I could give it a shot. Let's see. Is 4 weeks enough to build an entire card for Multivania, though, coming from Matrix? Yeah, it will be. I mean, I'd give you a short answer, but yeah, no, we got time. We're not worried about it.
You got to remember that. There's been a plan for a while. Bosco has actually had his basic plan for some time, and he's just executing it. So, and when you say enough time to build up, I mean, yeah, there's a roadmap. Things are being figured out.
And Dark Wolf to Dark Wolf's comment about Future Shock, it is likely that Future Shock will obviously there's going to be a smaller gap between Future Shock and Multivania, but as far as building for stories, I think we're still good.
Yeah. Can't remember. Warzone has much tighter turnaround than Flashbang.
Yeah, and I kind of have to echo what Zarek said. WWE takes, in theory, supposed to take 4 weeks just to make a pay-per-view card, but in some cases it's written like the day of.
Yeah.
There are instances where it's even changed on the fly.
Yeah.
It happens.
Exactly. It happens.
So yeah, I wouldn't worry about that. I am confident. Yeah, Multivania is going to happen 4th of July weekend, and there will be many shenanigans, and we are working on various things around that, including things I'm going to need to ping some people. There are plans. There are plans.
Indeed. Always plans.
Always plans. Many plans. All plans.
Plans within plans. Planception.
So
plan around that plan while they plan around our
plan. So I just found it. Yeah, I think Bosco is actually doing something right now. So we are not going to get him. That's fine. We don't. We can We can do fine. I'm fine. Everything's fine. How are you? It was a boring conversation anyway. We're gonna have company.
I saw Ed Wood earlier. Yeah.
Star Wars.
Thank you, Bob. Bob providing the special effects. Thank you.
Pew.
With that, I think anyone. It just right now we're not.
Last
week,
call.
Yeah. Questions. Who's got questions? Who's got questions that maybe the three of us can answer?
More or less these two, because I know nothing.
Oh, I mean, the first part is getting that past like actual Bosco, who we've had. You know what? Anytime anything happens where we talk about bringing up the Bosco character in the universe, he shies away.
Yeah.
I don't think you guys realize how much X-Pac heat was happening at Bosco at the time because of things that were happening. To the point of, remember the first, 4 or 5 firing lines? Or I keep saying firing. Starts with an F. My brain. Flashbangs were actually hosted by Edward Bosco, the character, the MVP. And then he brought in Rabbit as the general manager character. And then I want to say it was episode 6 or 7, he shifted over to doing the announcing as Rabbit, because that's also around the same time you had the final match of the MVP where he jobbed out Bosco to Defunk. And other than a in-ring retirement moment, that is the last we have seen of that character.
Yep.
So yeah, he and he, because of all the heat around that character, he's very reluctant to bring him back, even though at this point we have essentially an entire generation of MNW fans who never even saw the character.
Mm-hmm.
Which is weird. I still, in my head, when and I talk to Bosco all the time, and still in my head, I picture that character. Whereas I've seen pictures of Bosco, and I know he looks nothing really like that.
Yeah, he does not.
So that's a,
like, especially like if you're talking, especially like if you're talking about the Inquisition outside of Blackwell and Jindrak, like I can still picture Tomasian's fucking face right now with a microphone in hand, just yelling at everybody.
Well, and I still have my grand Tomasian theory, but I'm not going to push it here because, save that for another day. I will say this. Graves is dead, we think.
Good.
I have theories. I have theories within theories. But I'm not going to... First off, I'm not going to say some of my theories because I have in the past proven to be a little too good at it, in which those could be spoilers. So I'm just going to leave those alone. And I actually guessed what brain was in the creation.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then I second guessed myself when Bosco said, "Did you figure it out?" It's like, because I originally, it can't be that. So I gave a wrong answer. But I had actually in my head figured out earlier that it was high rolled. So because I'm pretty good at seeing the story thread. So I try not to, certain things I try not to commentate on. I mean, certain things I'll go off because either to me they're obvious or it could also be bullshit that can be retconned around. Like tonight in my theory about why Grim Reaper was so mad at Simon.
See, that was actually very sound, and that actually seems like the most logical explanation, honestly.
Well, I mean, the fact is what happened was RNG just decided the Grim Reaper is going to beat the shit out of Simon at the end.
Yeah.
That wasn't planned, but it's like, okay, but we could retcon it into making perfect story sense And I was just like, what would be one of the good retcons? Oh, well, this works, and it fits precisely in with story elements that Toby has established for the character.
Yeah, and like especially like if I mean, as the strategist for the Empire Terror, you don't want to be the one. You have to make up some kind of excuse to not like spill the beans of like, hey, we actually have a plan going, and you fucked it up. You don't want your enemy knowing about your grand scheme.
Yeah.
So, like, not even mentioning it in a promo, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
it's a pretty good theory.
Yeah, no, I mean, it can be gone with. So that's that's how you. I mean, that's really what you have. One of the biggest challenges. I'm going to pontificate for a second. Ladies and gentlemen, stand back. Dr. Caliban's
Just
about
make sure
to
you clean up afterward.
About to pontificate. Yeah, of course you do. Mr. Phelums? Jesus. Thanks, Bob.
Because his brothers Mr.
Touchums. Yes, I know. I
Touchums
got it
too.
immediately. I didn't want it. I'd like to give it back, but
look. I mean, we've been in the maelstrom for how long now? dealing with clowns, and then they just became not a problem anymore.
But no, the point I was going to make is this is the real trick with things like promos. Is one of the things you have to deal with is the show is going to be booked however the showrunners want to book it. They're going to determine the arc of the story. Now, promos can give them suggestions, can give them ideas, but you can never force the storyline. So in the case of what I was doing tonight with the Simon Grim Reaper match, that was taking the booking, which did come from suggestions from Toby and Simon. They cut promos. Bosco took those promos and went with them. But then building off of that based on what the RNG did. That's what you have to do. But it's all based on, okay, this stuff actually happened in show. We're going to flow with it. The problem comes in when people start cutting promos that are, for lack of a better term, going against the current. That are trying to, instead of flow with what the booking is, are trying to alter the booking and change the story into a new direction. So literally, honestly, I can't think of a better example of the right way than what Toby did last week with Grim Reaper. He played directly into the story. But there are other people who are trying, will cut promos and try and say, well, I'd rather see the story here. I don't agree with this thing, so I want to move it another direction. And that won't fly.
Yeah,
if you're going against the current of the story arcs, then at best you're just going to be ignored. At worst, something's going to happen in the game to show that you're not actually aware of what's going on.
Don't mess with Mother Nature.
Yeah, you just don't mess with and
it's been a major worry of mine personally, like trying to cut promos as Johan, because like there have been instances where I'm like, fuck, am I steering this in the direction that it's not supposed to?
I actually got into a discussion last night because somebody was talking about my promo I did last week, and they said you didn't actually name any names. I said, yeah, that was absolutely intentional. I have a general idea where I'd like to see my character go, and I have a general idea of what I'd like to see happen, but I didn't name names because there's a plan in the background I don't know about, and I'm just trying to make sure I have a promo that can work into that, but doesn't actually fly against potential plans. Also, as Bob says, why is that heel making a babyface promo? That's also another issue, but yeah.
Yeah.
So that's my moment of adding to all of the promo stuff. Actually, the other thing that was mentioned this week, and this was Will. So Actual Human Will, the player for Wilson, Son of Will, made a great point when you're writing your promos. And that is, it's a rule of thumb. It's not an exact because people talk at different paces. But in general, since we're only supposed to have about 2 to 2.5 minutes for our promos, Around three, you shouldn't be more than 300 words. If you've written something and it's more than 300 words, it's too long. And I'll go so far as to add that includes stage direction. If you're one of those people that wants to describe the background, make it short. Otherwise, you're losing your kids. I look at things where it's like, there's a lot of stage direction. You know what? I'm going to skip that because I don't care.
But I want you to know about how beautiful and green the trees were that day.
Well, you could also just storyboard it. It's like simply like camera fades on Dr. Caliban's estates. We go right into the lab where he is working on I don't know, like some sort of potion or something like that.
That's longer than I've ever written any of those. I always write camera fades into Dr. Caliban sitting in his office with a cup of tea.
Yeah, how I always do it. Camera fades in. Johan sitting on his stage. Like, you don't need to, like, if you want to write a book, write a book.
Yeah.
But short and simple. Less is more.
Yeah. Well, it's like and I know that I've had people groan at me, but it's oddly a good analogy. Promos should be like miniskirts. Long enough to cover the subject, but short enough to keep interest.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So that's just.
Well, and I mean, I think one of the big things also is that the idea of promos in this sense is that you're not trying to guide the story. You're trying to make the existing story more detailed. You're not trying to pick what's going to happen. You're trying to make what is happening and what has happened look better.
Right. Well, I mean, you look at what's going on in most promos. The rule I always try to think of is the face is trying to get themselves over, the heel is trying to get the face over. And part of the way they get the face over is make the audience hate them. Sure. So most promos really shouldn't be, I mean, obviously you're going to guide the story or you're going to tell the story, but they should be enhancing the story. And they should be mostly building your character, who your character is, because that's going to lead to more stuff in the future than just trying to say, oh, I want to go for this thing. I know I've been talking a lot about what Grim Reaper has been doing lately, but the playing of I'm the strategist of the Empire. That has actually now, it was a very simple thing. I am the Earl King West is the leader of the Empire, but I'm the strategist of the Empire. And that little piece has actually been kind of informing his character for a while, which is kind of leading us to where we are at this moment. I'm trying to think of other, Henry Colt does a really good job on the face side. That's one of the things somebody was pointing out. We talk a lot about what our heel promo writers do. We really got to focus on our faces too. And our best face example really is Henry Colt. With the Luna and Bulldog coming in right behind them.
Yeah, Henry Colt does have like that, he's got that influencer vibe to him where he's like, hey, how's it going, cultists? Like he's got a name for his fan base, talks to them directly, trying to make sure that they're okay. And whereas Bulldog and DeLuna, you sympathize with them because of all the hardships that they've gone through since before last year's Multivania.
Mm-hmm. Matrix, to your point, one of the things you'll notice, the best promo writers in this community tend to only put out a promo every 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And it goes back to what Joe was just saying, the less is more theory. If you're hamming it every week, it just kind of gets, here's another one. And so I know myself, when I'm cutting promos, I'm like, usually, I cut a promo last week. I didn't cut one this week. may or may not cut. If I cut one next week, it's going to be mostly determined on did something interesting happen in the show I want to hook into. Now, after about 3 weeks, if not much is going on, I might drop another one just to keep my character present. But the trick is your promos always have to say something.
Yeah.
Promos should never just be, "Hi, I'm still here." And yeah,
the only purpose is just to remind people that you exist. Then
Toby's pointing out he cuts one. He honestly only cuts one if something happens with his character he wants to drive with. So yeah, he probably every 6 weeks. Henry Colt as needed. Even Wilson, he'll do. Wilson's a heel. His character can get away with more because he finds original ways to be annoying every week.
Which is just outstanding.
Yeah, he's kind of the exception to the rule because of his skill at writing those.
Like actual human will, fantastic human being.
Yeah.
But oh my God, does he find new and innovative ways to have people to piss people off?
Well, I mean that's how he initially got over was his promo work, which is great. A lot of wrestlers can get over just based on promo work and not be the best workers.
Okay. I mean,
one of the greatest things that I heard I heard Chris Jericho talking about with when he was doing the list was he was literally sitting there with the pen, where he's going to click the pen. He was literally sitting there trying to figure out how long he could keep the crowd going with just holding his hand up, getting ready to click a pen. Like, how much can I get these people to hate me? Just by sitting here holding this pen up.
Yeah. Now, we're talking Chris Jericho.
Yeah.
Well, he also had a freaking running bet with himself about how he could get it over. It.
But he's there are certain guys that are on a whole different level. Jericho, The Rock. I think who else is kind of in that club to a certain degree. Mick Foley.
That's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, there's certain guys, and these are guys that I say William Regal possibly, who they really know how to read the crowd and can tailor their promos. This is also why these are the guys you can see as tweeners, because it's hard as tweener again. The definition we work with on that is somebody doing heel actions but getting face heat, and it's a skill that not everyone can get away with. Steve Austin can do it. Rock can do it. Jericho can do it. But there's a reason why it's rare, and it's because it's being a good tweener. That's sort of the master level of wrestling persona. And most people just aren't good enough to do it. So and it takes a lot of reading the crowd. That's why right now it's working for Doom. Doing heelish stuff, getting face reaction, but their promos support it, and they're just that right mix to get the pop while still doing these asshole actions. I feel if they ever went face, Meme could probably get away with it, just because I think Zacho could do it. But it's a skill, and it's too many people just do. Tweener has, I'm going to be a face this week and a heel this week, and that's now actually you're just killing your heat, right? Because people don't know. Oh, wait a minute, am I cheering for them? Am I booing them? What's going on here? So that's kind of the takeaway on that, which is just sort of an addendum to the promo class we did recently on the MNW YouTube channel, where several of us got together to discuss the dynamics of playing a face and playing a heel. Still available on the YouTube channel and also pinned in the Promo 101 forum on the MNW Discord. If you want to give that a listen, it's myself, Storytellers Apprentice, Burnout Vaughn, Zacho Duo, and of course, Edward Bosco.
But Dr. Caliban, where is the YouTube channel?
Well, the fancy you should ask. We have a handy link that should be coming up any second, and Of course, you can just go to YouTube and look up Multiverse Nexus Wrestling. We tend to get the episodes up usually 24 hours after they have gone live. Based on Twitch rules, it's 24 hours after the end of the stream. So that is, of course, that. Let's see. What else we got going on? I think that's kind of, unless anyone's got any other questions, I think we're coming up to I'll give you, okay, last call for questions. Last calls for questions or comments. Get them while it's hot.
We're only about 30 minutes short of our normal time,
Yeah.
so.
I did give Matrix a heads up for who the guest was this week, so he could make the thumbnail.
Cool. Yeah, no, yeah, Matrix has been doing a great job getting us he just recently created a Google Drive, so you can just throw them up there. I now know when I'm putting up shows, check, okay, is there anything in the Google Drive?
So Rosso's Rosso's asking, what if doing a face thing leads to you being a heel?
That's and usually that ends up being X-Pac heat, Rosso. That's kind of what happened to Roman Reigns. He was being pushed as a face, but the crowd didn't want anything to do with it, and that's the wrong heat. Usually, I mean, doing a face thing that makes you a heel, I'm trying to picture an area where that's actually going to happen. I suppose the only thing that could happen if something's supposed to make you sympathetic and it backfired. But
or
again, I'm trying to think of an example of that ever really happening.
Well, not really being a heel, but heel adjacent because, you know, who he was associated with, but Johan joining the Empire because of, you know, circumstances.
Yeah, but that wasn't
pretty much booed as he was booed as a heel regardless of him pretty much staying the exact same.
He was booed, but I mean, it was effectively played as a heel turn, so I wouldn't count that. You did kind of have the weird shift between Stone Cold Steve Austin and Bret Hart, but that had as much to do with basically even though Stone Cold was booked as the heel in that feud, that basically the crowd was just coming over to Austin's side, and so that kind of shifted the dynamic. The Zacho Chaz situation, Sawyer situation, possibly. Again, I feel like there's more nuance going on there. I don't think that was the face action leading to the heel. I mean, here's the thing. All right, here's what I'm thinking, Rosa. When I was interpreting that question, I was thinking a face action and having the audience treat you as a heel. Now, there can be face actions that lead to a heel turn. And I think that's the Zacho Chaz Sawyer situation. That, Zacho and Sawyer were dealing with Chaz, who was honestly being a bit of a dick. And they ultimately went heel because the situation was so frustrating. But that's a heel turn. I guess I was interpreting your question as being more accidentally becoming a heel by doing face stuff. And I just can't, outside of that Bret Hart situation, I can't really think of a time it's happened. Yeah, Carla, there was no showcases this week. There was a lot of other stuff going on. Also, I think Bosco was trying to keep an eye on time, because reason the show was even early was because he had something to do, and he didn't want to risk it running long. And showcase matches, especially when they're RNG, can go anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes. So not having a showcase match and notice there wasn't a lot of multi-man in that either. Keep it tight, keep it to more predictable time frames. With making your matches, either single one fall or, you had the Tornado Tag Team, but you didn't have any of the matches that usually are we're going to be here for a while. So,
Well, in Matrix, in that example, I would say that again, that's where it's not that action that would do a full heel turn. You would have, especially if it is the face, then well, that's the face. He's a good guy. Despite being a bad guy, he still cares for his friend. Big example there, if you want real world example, would be the Sting and Luger relationship, where Sting would come out even when Luger was being a bad guy, and he would try to talk sense into Lex, but it still doesn't turn him heel. But now, if he then goes and turns and hits the next face to defend Lex, then that is a heel turn. But just coming out to talk with the face or with the heel and stuff like that, that's not going to cement a turn.
And Bob, how dare?
I
was watching. I remember that match. I'll never forget that match. Somewhere in the multiverse, that match is still going on.
Like, the funny thing is, I was making dinner as the match was going on, and was done and ate and had it eaten by the time friggin' Euclidean tapped. That was just
after a while we were like, is this what? Wait, why is this? And as we realized what had happened, Bob was even lampshading. Well, I see where our mistake was.
Like, the funny thing is, I think that was like the precursor to the April Fool's joke last year.
Well, yeah, but the April Fool's joke was heresy tech. So,
very true.
All right, anything else, folks? We still got.
Well,
technically, we could still go another half hour if you got stuff for us to talk about.
Let's see.
Okay, well, Xavier Woods and Tyler Breeze, and they're related. That's a whole nother level.
That's out of WWE relationship.
It's them. It's not even Xavier Woods. That's Austin Creed and Breeze. Just being goofballs. You want to see what's funny when Cesaro gets involved with them. Because at that point, it's just like, oh dear God, it's just going to be insane. What else?
Cesaro's actually a really great
guy. Well, here's the thing, Lady Catherine. I think right now you've been doing the way you've been doing it has been great on playing up the heel with a point. I mean, you're being very, very. You're keeping to that storyline. Let's say there are other people involved in the storyline I would like to see doing better jobs in their promos, but I think you're being very focused on where the story should be going, and you're very focused on your goals. What I'm going to be interested in is seeing what happens when the next act of this story plays out, especially because I am expecting it to follow a certain structure, because there are stories like this we've seen in wrestling before. And if it goes the route I predict, it's going to be really interesting to see which way your character goes. And the big thing is you're going with where the story is playing. You're not swimming against it. And that's kind of back to my point. The story is being booked a certain way. And you see it in that the promos you're writing are really exactly in line with how Bosco has been playing your character when he does in-ring stuff. So as long as those are synced up, then you're basically fine. You're basically doing what you need to be doing and keeping the story going. You're enriching the character. It's becoming a very specific focus. You've got one goal, and it's just the biggest thing I'd say. It's going to be interesting when the next shoe drops, which will probably be, if I'm mapping this out correctly, I think it's going to be around Multivania. I mean, that's the kind of place where you're going to blow a part of the story off. As I said, looking at the story beats, and understand, Bosco has not confided this specific story into me. I know as much really as I only know one thing the audience doesn't know, which tells me where the next beat of the story is going to go, and I'm not going to spoil it. And I'll also say I haven't even been alluding to that in anything I do on Firing Line. So I'd say, yeah, no, you're doing fine. You keep doing what you're doing, and you'll be fine. Especially now that you've beat Tiki. Like I said, other things going on. I worry about creep from other people trying to get into the story. I feel some other people need to again read the room. But I give fine marks to. Well, and here's the thing. So people don't know, Lady Catherine actually reached out to me outside everything, asking for pointers on this. And I'd say you've listened to those pointers and are doing great. So. It's also why I go ahead and read, you're always posting stuff here, and it feeds into it. And, Bosco sees those too. And so I'd say I wouldn't advocate changing anything you're doing right now. I think you're on the right track.
It is nice to see someone actually taking advice from someone about their promos or like how they are acting, because like I've seen so many instances where someone would be giving advice in the promo one-on-one section and just have it be ignored.
I mean, when you're coming, because Catherine was coming to me for actual advice, not for validation of her story, but was instead asking me what she should actually do. And I was like, do this, play it this way. You should be great. And it's working. And frankly, it's one of the biggest stories on the show right now. So which is what you want. You've got relevancy. So keep your relevancy. Can you have validation? We were saying you don't need validation. You guys. I mean, your group is so in sync right now. It's great. I want to say I like the promo you posted today. Although I think Storytellers might be wanting to talk to you about copyright issues.
No, but I will say though that for Twisty, that it's amazing that she didn't know about Maki Ito until like a few months ago after she got signed onto Flashbang. And she was like, wait, I've been playing this character for like the last 3 or 4 months. What the fuck?
And here it is. Congratulations. Yeah. I mean, that's how these things work sometimes. And it can be good stuff. All right. And don't feel dumb. You know what? Things shift. The characters grow. I mean, we could talk about the growth of characters like Zeracus or Michael Macabre. Things happen, they shift, and new layers get revealed. How many people knew that prior to recent reveals that Zeracus was a nightmare demon? Was essentially a sleep paralysis demon.
I think it's because the original Night Reaper wasn't much on talking.
Well, the original Night Reaper didn't have much character.
I know, right?
It was all the heavy lifting was done by Phil.
Yeah.
So I think what Toby actually said is what I would endorse here. Read the room. Pay attention, read the room. Know that sometimes it's not the time to talk, but the time to listen and figure out what's going on. And then play into the story. And the things that are going to help is the more in sync you are with the overall stories going on, the better off you're going to be. The hardest thing realistically is when you're kind of rudderless, when there's nothing to do. And then that is just, you do things like, the people lately with the open challenges where it's like, I don't know where my character is going to go. All right, I'm going to throw an open challenge. And that usually then helps develop some story. We've seen a lot of good story. I mean, you had the whole open challenge between Brawl Kaiser and Aristocratic Canid. And that has informed their characters from then on. And let's face it, people care. That adds relevancy. That's the other thing. I think if I can take another moment to pontificate. One thing we tried to drive home, and we tried to drive this home during the workshop, was win-loss record is not important. I'm not saying it's not at all important, but it's not the most important thing to a character. What's important is how relevant your character is. It's like Donkey Kong can come out and have a ton of relevancy, and he's never won a match. Azir Turan over on Warzone is one of the top characters on the show. His win-loss record, we did some calculations. It's only like 42%, 46% maybe. It's less than 50. Same with Mega Blitz X. Characters can have spotty win-loss records, but that doesn't matter if they're made themselves relevant. Henry Colt here on Flashbang is like that. So is DeLuna. Hell, Johan lost his first 4 or 5 matches.
No, he won his first match, which was a 4-man Extreme Rules elimination where he pinned Gorm originally.
Mm-hmm.
Got double booked that exact same night and lost the 8-man because Cat met him on the outside, and we all know what happens there.
Right.
And then he went into a feud with Gorm where Gorm still has 1 win over Johan. Their blow-off was only to get closer towards Gorm,
right?
Bringing in the second win over a series of 5, essentially.
Right. But the point here is that Johan had a spotty win-loss record and still went on, when Fate had the vote. And that was a legit vote from the players that Johan was the person they voted to be their representative in that big match with Earl King, which was the faith that everyone had in the character. That was his relevancy.
Well, it's because everybody and their mother was coming up from the woodwork beforehand and failed and was like, okay, let's take a look back and see who actually deserves this spot.
Right. But again, it's the point I'm making that what you need is relevancy, and that's how you build your character. Johan was built as the great warrior. He had relevancy. He got that match. You have, who else is really good at this right now? DeLuna in anything dealing with the family's mask, relevancy. Right now, you have some characters gaining it because they have some things going on. Scotty Stevens building relevancy because of his Apex feud. You have.
I actually would argue he built relevancy here on Firing Line, mostly because there's only so much you can do in a 2-minute promo, whereas he came here every week to just go off. I mean, your banter with Hard Luck, going down the list of wrestlers on Flashbang and him giving his responses to that, pretty much just got him over as this not cowardly, as the heel. So honestly, it's because of this show, because of Firing Line, that Scott E. Stevens even has any kind of relevancy to him.
Well, and that's kind of getting to the point of this is where your promos can help. Win-loss record, whatever. I honestly don't care. Making yourself relevant, making it people go, oh, they're coming out, is the much bigger deal. Dark Lord Popo comes out. He doesn't come out very often, but what he does, everyone's like, well, crap, or the Cleaver, or anything like that.
Or the Creation.
That's what you want to, that's what you want to have, is people having that reaction, having it when something goes on with this character, you realize it matters. And win-loss record does not play very much into it, unless you're playing a storyline like with Satiris or with Nero right now, where their actual win-loss records are part of the story. Or Donkey Kong's, his constantly losing is part of the story. But even then, it's only informing the story. It's not the actual relevant matter.
Yeah, well, and it's also typically for extremes. It's not for, this guy's thing is he has 5 wins and 7 losses. It's typically if you're having a streak of wins where you start focusing on it, right, or you have a streak of losses. Those are where you can start to get away with something, but it's not going to be a integral part of your character for any period of time.
No.
Also, Zericus, I would argue that yes, Blackwell does have probably one of the better records in Flashbang. What makes Blackwell relevant isn't his wins, it's his dominance over his opponents. He puts on brutal, it's odd how often he would actually squash even more established talent. He isn't the best. He doesn't get he gets a lot of wins, but it's mostly just his power, his moveset, just his overall presence is what makes him relevant.
Okay, so anything else anyone need right now? Any other questions? Anything you want us to follow up on this? It's been a good discussion.
We're only about 15 minutes out from our usual time.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, we're doing good.
Yeah, so I'd probably start wrapping things up.
Yeah, yeah. So unless anyone has anything else they want to bring up, we think we're getting to the point where we can. I mean, yeah, that's kind of what we're saying, Lady Catherine.
Yep.
I think we've done a good job padding out, but yeah, it's time.
We've stalled long enough.
We have. All right. So, Joe Mojo, you got anything to show?
One, apologies for my ranting antics. Go see Twitch the Person's Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Twitch the Person for Nexus Kingdom tomorrow at around, I would like to say, so it starts about 5:30 UK time, so that will be about noon, like 12:30 Eastern Standard, if I did my math correctly. It's going to be a 2-day event. He's going to be doing a Friday and a Saturday show, so definitely go watch that if you have not.
Okay, Story, anything?
No, I'm good.
Okay, so kind of like Tuesday. Okay. All right, yeah. So for us here at twitch.tv Dr_Caliban, on Monday we are continuing our playthrough of the Evil Genius 2 game, where we are playing Red Ivan, the character voiced by the incomparable Brian Blessed. And then on Tuesdays, we are once again doing the Flag and Dragon, the Crew That Is True, where Storytellers, Apprentice, and I team with Donkey Kang and Corporal Canada to play co-op games. And also, I would again encourage people to check out the MNW YouTube channel. All shows from MNW do find their way onto that channel, and you can check an archive of our history. Also, those all shows are broken down into chapters, so if you're looking for a specific match, it's really easy to find them on the YouTube. And then last but not least, remember that tomorrow night is at 5 p.m. Pacific time is going to be Friday Night Flashbang at twitch.tv/Edward Bosco. And with that said, let me look at my list. Who do I have?
Only people I got are Coordinator and Brawl Kaiser.
Let's see. I got those two. I've got my friend Mal. I've got Rabbit. I got Lanny. I've got. That's it.
Should we mention the Draco show?
Yeah, I was gonna say if we want to. Tim, do we have the link for the Draco fundraiser?
Yeah, 1 second.
While I figure this out.
I got it.
I'm gonna check something. Hang on,
got it.
Get something real quick.
Energies weave and connect
to the top of the list.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know, members of our community, the Draco family, that is the players of Moira Draco, Lord Bareback, and Drathulu, they are a family, a mother and her sons. They are currently in a rough situation they need to get some help getting out of. So we have a GoFundMe set up for them. The link is in the chat. So if you want to give that a shot, it would be much appreciated. And for tonight's raid, I think I'm going to do something a little different. Because we've raided Kaiser and we've raided Coordinator. But I got a friend of mine. He's actually the guy that got me into streaming initially. It was dragging me to Twitch to watch him that actually led me to finding MNW. And it's my friend Reverend Mal. I've actually gone to Disneyland with this man. And looks like he is doing Mass Effect Legacy Edition. And I think it would just break his brain to get raided. So, and if you could give him the raid message, what would be a good raid message from out? Just tell him the doctor is in. He'll get it. He'll curse my name, but he'll get it. So anyway, everyone, thank you very much for hanging out with us tonight. As appreciated as always. And we hope to see you all tomorrow night on Flashbang. Have a good night, everyone.
Not your friend. Because I do not know anything about the matriarch. Then why would I? That's all for now. Then I will return to my meditation.
Well, that guy's